The exploitation of Erica Kirk began before her husband's blood had dried. Within hours of Charlie Kirk's assassination, Republican operatives had descended upon his widow, not with comfort but with talking points, not with sympathy but with scripts, not to support her but to stage manage her grief for maximum political impact. What followed was perhaps the most shameless act of emotional vampirism in modern American politics. The transformation of a devastated woman into a ventriloquist's dummy for the GOP machine. Consider the sheer cruelty of what was done to Mrs. Kirk. In her moment of maximum vulnerability, unable to sleep, trying to explain death to a 3-year-old, processing the violent loss of her life partner, she was surrounded not by grief counselors, but by political consultants. While she should have been planning a funeral, someone was planning her media strategy. While she was trying to comprehend widowhood, someone was workshopping her messaging. The evidence of external manipulation is overwhelming. Listen to this grieving widow suddenly transform into a conference promoter. If you want to get involved, go to tpusa.com. I highly recommend that you come to America Fest in December. Sign up right now. What widow, 3 days after watching her husband murdered, is thinking about website URLs and conference registrations? This isn't her voice, it's someone else's agenda being pushed through her mouth. The Republican machine clearly had a continuity plan ready, not for comfort, but for control. They needed to ensure the organization survived, the donations continued, the conferences sold out. So they took a woman who admits, "I honestly have no idea what any of this means," and made her deliver corporate growth projections. "I promise I'll make Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen." That's not a widow's promise. That's a board resolution being delivered by someone too traumatized to resist. Watch the grotesque precision of the organizational rhetoric inserted into her eulogy. She thanks the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy, making sure key players get their public recognition. She announces, "Our campus tour this fall will continue. There will be even more tours in the years to come. This isn't spontaneous. It's a business continuity announcement that someone convinced her she needed to make." The most damning evidence is the threat embedded in her grief. The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. No woman 3 days into widowhood naturally speaks like this. This is action movie dialogue, written by someone who sees her not as a person to be comforted, but as a weapon to be deployed. They turned her natural anger into political ammunition, her grief into a declaration of war. The recruitment elements are particularly vile. Here's a woman who can barely function. "I don't remember the last time I slept," being used to recruit teenagers. If you're in high school, or if you're in college, go find your local Turning Point USA chapter. Join it. If there isn't a chapter, you can't find one, then start one. There is no excuse. Someone made a grieving widow tell children they have no excuse not to join a political organization. The cynicism is breathtaking. Consider what the Republicans took from her in these moments. Instead of being allowed to remember her husband as he was, flawed, human, real, she was forced to participate in his instant canonization. Wearing the glorious crown of a martyr, she calls him, reading words that transform a political operative into a saint. They robbed her of the right to grieve the actual man, replacing him with a symbol useful for their purposes. The conference promotion is perhaps the cruelest touch. While she's saying, "Charlie, I love you, baby," someone has ensured she also says, "Sign up right now for that because we would love to see you," about the December event. They literally turned her love letter to her dead husband into a sales pitch. The same people claiming to honor Kirk's memory are using his widow as a marketing tool while she's too traumatized to resist. The handlers even made sure she hit the sports references. "He loved the Chicago Cubs, and my goodness did he love the Oregon Ducks. He wanted me to say, 'Go Ducks,' so I have to since they play on Saturday." The specificity of knowing they play on Saturday reveals the preparation, the coaching, the script. Someone decided the eulogy needed humanizing touches and inserted them with all the subtlety of a corporate PR department. What makes this particularly heinous is that Mrs. Kirk clearly didn't have the capacity to resist. She admits she hasn't slept, can't process what's happening, doesn't understand what any of it means. In that state of vulnerability, Republican operatives surrounded her, shaped her message, and pointed her at the cameras. It's predation disguised as support. The machine needed her to perform several functions: reassure donors, recruit new members, establish a martyrdom narrative, and declare war on political opponents. So they took a grieving widow and made her do all of it, wrapped in just enough genuine emotion to make the manipulation deniable. The tell is in the oscillation between authentic grief and corporate messaging. When she talks about her daughter asking, "Where's Daddy?" and explaining, "He's on a work trip with Jesus, so he can afford your blueberry budget," that's real, devastating, human. But then immediately, the radio and podcast show that he was so proud of will go on. Someone is literally switching her back and forth between widow and CEO. What they've stolen from her is the right to genuine grief. Instead of processing her loss privately, she's been made into a public performer. Instead of anger at one killer, her rage has been redirected at millions of Americans who simply disagreed with her husband politically. The promise they extracted, "I promise I'll make Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen," isn't her promise. It's the Republican machine's promise, delivered through her because a widow's vow has more emotional impact than an RNC press release. This is the Republican Party in 2025, so shameless they'll exploit a widow's first days of grief, so cynical they'll turn tears into talking points, so cruel they'll make a traumatized woman deliver their recruitment pitches while she can barely stand. They took a woman who needed comfort and made her into content. When she says, "I don't remember the last time I slept," she's telling us she's not in her right mind. When she says, "I honestly have no idea what any of this means," she's admitting she can't process what's happening. And in that state of vulnerability, the Republican Party moved in, not to help her, but to use her. The exploitation of Erica Kirk isn't just cruel, it's a confession. The Republican Party has admitted through their treatment of this widow that there is nothing they won't monetize, no grief they won't weaponize, no tragedy they won't transform into political advantage. Erica Kirk needed humanity. She got handlers. She needed time. She got talking points. She needed genuine support. She got turned into a political weapon while too traumatized to resist. They've shown us exactly who they are, and we should believe them.